There's this little thing I call R&D, which most people call research and development. I call it rip off and duplicate. So I go and find who's doing it and doing it great, and I take what they have and I make it my own. I'm not trying to plagiarize or anything like that, but I'm like, who's got the best thing out there? How can I utilize that? Or how can I use the same techniques? Everybody does an application. Well, I probably should do an application too. Welcome, Income Hackers. This is your host, Ryan G. Wright. This podcast is for individuals and families who are interested in fast-tracking their financial success. You'll hear experts discussing topics like generating a residual cash flow, building wealth through real estate, financial literacy, creating a family legacy, and overcoming your fears. If you get value out of this podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It's a big help to me. What would you say to somebody that's saying, I don't want to invest out of state, or I'm scared to? What would you say to somebody like that?
I would say, open your mind a little bit and realize that, it is possible to invest out of state.
Yeah, it's really interesting. When I started lending, I lended only in my home state. And it was getting more competitive in these things. And I started saying, let's go to a different state. And my wife, who's also a real estate investor with me, was so scared to go to a new state because we couldn't drive by. We couldn't go look at it. We had to take a little more a leap of faith. But one of the things I found really interesting, we went to Colorado, I think was the next state we went to from Utah. And what we found is we actually did better deals there, better loans, because we weren't as emotional about the deal. And we had someone else, the professional, was looking at it, two people, gave us the values, and we made more of a logical decision than emotional decisions. And we ended up doing better loans there and had better success.
It also forces you to create some systems and some processes and really unplug from that property, which is my ultimate goal. I didn't get into this so I could go to my rental property every day and, polish it up and dust it off and, clean the backyard and do all these things. I wanted to, build that passive income, have that remote, work stream, those kinds of things. So it really forced me to do those things.
Well, and I think that's the difference between like a business owner and a wannabe type idea, right? A lot of people they may buy a property, do the work themselves, which there's nothing wrong with that, but you've got to get compensated for being an investor and compensated for doing the work. If you're doing both of those things, some people will find a deal, they'll, do the rehab themselves and make some money like a general contractor would and think they found a good deal, when the reality is they're just getting compensated for the labor they were going to do anyway. They could have gone to somebody else's house and done that and made that same amount of money and not had it. So there's this difference between being a business owner and just doing the work for basically for free, and that mentality shift of saying, I want to run it like a business, and making sure that you've got that business mindset.
It's so easy to go out and acquire another job if you're not careful, especially in the world of real estate investing, right? Like you could easily go out and buy a property and be married to that thing and have to be over there so frequently, constantly working on it. And that's not what I wanted. I didn't want another job. I already had one of those. I was trying to get away from that. So, I kind of took this philosophy like work on the business, not work in the business, right? So that remoteness really helped me and kind of forced me to figure out how to do that.
We have a lot of people on the podcast. We talk about a lot of mistakes, but the biggest mistake anybody could make is not starting, because this starting, Jacob did the best he could, try to screen the property, try to do all these things. And now all the learning comes because he's forced into the situation to make it work. Not saying to be stupid up front and buy something that you shouldn't be buying. Do the best you can and then figure it out as you go, or you're going to miss out on the biggest opportunity. A loss is never giving it a shot. Any thoughts on that?
Ryan, I think you hit that right on the head there, because, people say like, I don't want to take the risk of investing in a property. There's going to be all these headaches, but doing nothing is also taking a risk. You're foregoing the opportunity cost of, growing wealth and building financial freedom for yourself earlier in your career so that later on, you can reap those benefits. So simply doing nothing is still taking a huge risk, especially when you think about the potential you have. And yeah, it can be intimidating to not know the entire process. Like, okay, I barely know how to, from end to end, manage, finance, all those things required a rental property, but you'll figure those out as you go. You're not going to know everything right up front. So know a little bit, jump in, take some action. You'll learn as you go, and it won't be the end of the world. You'll stumble, you'll fail, but you'll get back up and it'll be okay. anything worth doing is going to be challenging. It's going to have its hurdles and its complications. So yeah, expect that. But what you're going to have to do is prioritize, what it is you're doing outside of, let's call it your 9 to 5. You're working 8 hours a day. It's difficult to come home and then, analyze some rental properties or organize, your financial records or, network with people or learn or read books or whatever. It can be difficult. It's a commitment for sure. But what are you doing instead? Are you coming home and, maybe exercising or, hanging out with buddies, playing video games, watching TV, just wasting time away? That time's going to pass. So you might as well do something with it and be intentional about what you're doing with it. And it really just comes down to, you have to make a commitment to yourself.
It's never going to be convenient to start. No matter what situation you find yourself in, whether you're waiting for money. A lot of people use money as an excuse. I need money. Well, you can get started with little to no money. People use time as an excuse. Well, you can get started. You rearrange and prioritize. And that's the whole, the whole thought process behind what we do as income hackers is I believe that anybody can become a millionaire in a lifetime, or at least a half a millionaire. I mean, if you save $10 a week and you put it in the stock market with some fund and do that for 40 years or whatever, you're going to end up with anywhere from $250,000 to $1 million pretty easily. The question is how can we income hack that and do it in 7 years and do that faster and get more results out of it? And that's the whole concept behind us, which starts with financial literacy and knowing the right things to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you there. It's just about, taking that action. You might not know the full step, whatever it's going to require later on down the road, but just getting started now is like the most important piece.
Yeah.
It's all about what you're trying to do, what you want. There's 1,000 different ways to do real estate investing, right? So whatever method fits you and your approach and your goals, go do that and stick with it. And maybe in a few years, that's no longer the thing, and you're going to switch gears and start doing larger deals or smaller deals, or flipping houses or wholesaling deals, or still doing buy and holds. There's so many different ways to do it, and that's kind of the beauty of real estate investing in itself.
If you've got your day job, which there's nothing wrong with having a day job. My dad was a chiropractor, got into real estate, same thing, saved money. But you got to create the personal margin, and you do that by making more, and you can make more money by improving your skills in your day job or by doing some real estate deals on the side. And you do that by spending less money, by saying, am I really getting the value I want out of these things? There's probably a lot of stuff you're paying for that you're like, I'm really not in love with that. I'm really not getting the value. And that creates a margin. And then we can take that margin and we go and invest that margin so that we can start getting the returns. And one of the things I get on the soapbox a lot, like if you're going to go buy something, you want to go buy the TV, don't just go buy the TV, go buy a cash flow instrument and put your money there. And then that cash flow instrument can pay for the TV, and it'll pay for a TV every few years. Plus you still have the money sitting there. So when you create that personal margin, invest the margin, then use that margin to buy the things that you want to do, because it'll replace itself all the time. That's really something I'm passionate about.
Oh man, I love that philosophy and I love that approach. Using assets to purchase liabilities is essentially what that boils down to. I'm a huge proponent of that. Driving around, right, you look for this old dilapidated house, you see something, grass is tall, a bunch of notices on the door, you write down that address. You go home, you look it up on the county tax website, you can find the owner's name, typically address, sometimes phone number depending on your county, but usually at least an owner's name and address. Send a piece of mail to him, say, hey, my name is Jacob, I'm an aspiring real estate investor, I would be interested in talking to you about your property, call me back, blah, blah, blah.
Excellent. Write that down. If you're just getting started, that's a great strategy, very little cost. You can start seeing some results with it. So I love it. I love it. So let's jump into the wrap-up session. We're going to call this Going Deep. What's your why? What keeps you motivated? How do you push through hard times?
For me, it's the excitement of just unlimited potential in this world of real estate investing. You can get out of as much out of it as you put in. And so for me, that lack of glass ceiling really excites me. I don't have any kids yet to, kind of really think about passing down my legacy, but, that's in the back of my mind, and just wanting to build wealth and help others, be able to help my family members out, my parents in retirement, help my nieces and nephews and my future family, and just those kinds of things. I'm just really driven and motivated by the idea of like this unlimited earning potential. So for me, that's what keeps me going.
That's awesome. Favorite book?
How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, or Carnegie, depending on how you pronounce it. I still don't know.
Yeah. I just told my son last night, if he reads it, I'll give him $25.
Oh, shoot. Yeah.
Favorite app?
Favorite app. So I don't have any super hacking app here. I use Google Maps a lot. I'm kind of a geography nut, especially with real estate, that location kind of mantra. So you've got to know where things are. I've got a little mortgage app. I think it's called Mortgage Calculator Plus. You can kind of put in, your down payment, your interest rate, that kind of things will quickly tell you your mortgage. So, always kind of, what would be the mortgage on that $120,000 house if I put 25% down kind of thing. So that helps out. And then YouTube, get the YouTube app on my phone and I look up I'm probably spend 2 hours a day on YouTube.
For learning, let's clarify that. It's
Yes.
mostly learning, I assume.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not as much on the entertainment side. If you had all day long, money was no object, you had the full day, no obligations, what would you do with it?
Wake up really early, drink some coffee, read a book, go kayak fishing, study some real estate, cook some dinner, wind down.
Hopefully cook what you caught, huh?
Oh, yes, that would be a great day.
Yeah, what are you, a bass fisherman, or what do you fish there?
Coming from Oklahoma, is typically a freshwater bass fisherman. Coming down here to Houston, I'm near the Gulf, so I've been trying to pick that up the past few years. I'm pretty terrible at it, but went out last weekend, had some luck. So yeah.
That's great. I caught my first bass last year, and that was fun. Favorite quote?
My favorite quote's by Henry Ford. It says, "Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right." It's a pretty common quote. Lots of people have heard it, but for me, it's just inspiring to think like, hey, what you think you can, it's absolutely possible. So you're really limited by your inner thoughts, your mindset. And for me, that's exciting.
It's great. Jacob, any final words for our listeners?
Hey, I think if you're thinking about getting started investing in real estate, just take action. That could be buying a book, going to a meetup, listening to a podcast like this. Obviously, keep listening to great content like Ryan's putting out. And sooner or later, you'll have got your very first deal and be well on your way to building a life you want.
Fantastic. Jacob, thank you so much for being here. I have really enjoyed myself. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks for being a guest expert on our show today. If you got value out of our discussion today, please subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It's a big help to me. Also, please share with a friend. Nothing is more valuable than creating financial friends who are like-minded. You can do that by inviting them to listen to the IncomeHacker podcast. Bye for now, and make it a very profitable day.